Nigel Marven, a time-traveling zoologist and a man who has had his fair share of close scrapes with dinosaurs. But the Earth has witnessed more terrible monsters than these. What Nigel is about to learn about prehistory is that no matter how bad things get on land, the one thing you should never ever do is get in the water.
Hello everybody, welcome back to my 560 subscriber special, in which I'll be breaking down the first episode of Sea Monsters, Dangerous Seas. Thank you so much for getting me to 560 subscribers, and let's hop in. It is possible that Dangerous Seas isn't even the official episode title, as this one random redditor claims to have just made it up, which is of course an incredibly reliable source. Unlike other Walking With series, this and Walking With Monsters are broken up into segments, with each set in different places and times, so I cover each of these separately within the episodes. The episode starts with the prologue segment, featuring various creatures from Chased by Dinosaurs, Velociraptor, Tarbosaurus and Giganotosaurus, chasing our host, Nigel Marven, before he jumps into the water, where he is surrounded by creatures which we will later meet, with those being Tylosaurus and Zephactinus. It could be assumed that the events of this scene do not canonically occur, as most of these creatures did not coexist. We are then introduced to Nigel's time-travelling boat, the Ancient Mariner, and are informed of the premise of the show, Nigel visiting the 7 deadliest seas in all of prehistory. As well as being hosted by Nigel Marven, the series is narrated by Karen Haley. We are then introduced to the Time Map. It shows a variety of creatures from past Walking With and later in this series, as well as art of a couple of other creatures. The creatures featured on the time map are woolly mammoth, quaternary, megalodon australopithecus, neogene, gardenosia, apidium, arsinoitherium, basilosaurus, ambulocetus and leptictidium, paleogene, T-Rex, pteranodon, elastosaurus, tylosaurus, Zephactinus, leolinosaurus, allosaurus, possibly intended to be a polariosaur, South American iguanodont, and Imbremsaurus, all from the Cretaceous, Liopleurodon, Leadsichthys, Diplodocus, Stegosaurus, and Rhamphorhynchus from the Jurassic, Noithosaurus, Symbospondylus, Plateosaurus, and Coelophysis/Triassic Coelurosaur, Tanystropheus, Coolosuchus, likely intended to be a representative of other brachiopods which were common in the Triassic, Cynodont and Placerius, all from the Triassic, unidentified lobe-finned fish, sometime between the Devonian and Triassic, Stethocyanthus, Brontoscorpia, Dunkleosteus and Bostheolepis, Devonian, Trilobite, sea scorpion, orthocone, jawless fish, Ordovician. No creatures from the Precambrian, Cambrian, Silurian, Carboniferous and Permian are featured, as no creatures from these periods had been created yet for Walking With. This segment is set 450 million years ago in New York. It was filmed in and around the Red Sea in Egypt. Earth is believed to have had rings in the early Ordovician, but I don't know if they would have still been around by the segment setting. Nigel claims that land plants hadn't evolved by segment setting, but more recent evidence shows that land plants date back to at least 20 million years before the segment setting. Horseshoe crab corpses appear. True horseshoe crabs, Limulidae, did not evolve until the Jurassic, but Xiphosaura, the order containing horseshoe crabs, evolved in the late Ordovician. Lunataspis, the earliest known Xiphosauran, lived from 455 to 445 million years ago in nearby Canada, meaning it lived in the right time and around the right place to appear. A jawless fish corpse appears. It is externally identified as Astraspis. Astraspis was an astraspidid jawless fish from the mid to late Ordovician, 476 to 443 million years ago, of Central North America, meaning it lived in the right time and possibly the right place to appear. The sea scorpion is not named in the episode, but it is identified externally as Megalograptus. Megalograptus was a megalograptid eurypterid, or sea scorpion, from the late Ordovician, 453 to 445 million years ago, of the US and Canada, meaning it lived in the right place and time to appear. The Megalograptus going on land to spawn is based on the activities of horseshoe crabs as seen in Krill Sea. I cannot find how accurate this behaviour is. Nigel says that there are sea scorpions fossils known that have eurypterid larvae in their stomachs. This is not true. In fact, we do not have any preserved eurypterid stomach contents. Although we have coprolites from some form of eurypterid, likely Megalograptus, which show that it fed on other eurypterids. A large trilobite corpse appears. It is externally confirmed to be Isotellus. Isotellus was an asaphid trilobite from the mid-late to late Ordovician, 488 to 432 million years ago, of the northeast United States and parts of Canada, meaning it lived in the right place and time to appear. The genus Isotellus contains several of the largest trilobite species, including Isotellus rex, which may have been the largest trilobite ever. Nigel states that a day would have only lasted 21 hours in the Ordovician, which appears to be true. The sea scorpion is shown feeding on the Isotellus corpse. As mentioned earlier, we have coprolites thought to belong to Megalograptus, and these coprolites in fact contain the remains of Isotellus trilobites. Orthocone does not refer to a single taxonomic group, but rather the conical shell fossils of various extinct nautiloids. The orthocone is not named in this episode, but is externally identified as Camarasaurus. Camarasaurus was an endoceratid nautiloid from the Ordovician, 486 to 443 million years ago, of North America, Europe and Asia, meaning it lived the right place and time to appear. Orthocones most likely swam with their shell pointed upright rather than horizontal as shown in the series. The Camarasaurus species featured in the episode is most likely Camarasaurus giganteum, but this species has been reassessed as belonging to the genus Endocerus. Endocerus lived in the mid to late Ordovician, 470 to 443 million years ago, of Europe, Asia, the Americas and Australia, meaning it lived in the right place and time to appear. The largest existing specimen of Endocerus would have only reached about 5.7 meters long, making the one in the episode highly oversized, although it may be based on a destroyed specimen which supposedly consisted of a 9-meter long shell, although this length was possibly exaggerated. There doesn't appear to be any evidence for or against Endocerus or Camarasaurus living in deep waters, as claimed by the episode. What seemed to be jellyfish appear in the background of some scenes. Jellyfish had already evolved in the Precambrian and as such would have existed at the time period of this segment. I cannot find a specific genus that they could be from this general area. This segment is set 230 million years ago in Switzerland. Given this, it may be based on the Swiss Bassano Formation, which the three main creatures of this segment have all been found in, but the Bassano is believed to have been laid down approximately 12 million years before the segment setting. I cannot find where this segment was filmed, though the YouTuber Hodgepodge believes it was filmed in either Aotearoa, New Zealand, or the Bahamas. A Triassic Coelurosaur appears, using a recolored Silophysis model. There is a slight problem with this, as the earliest confirmed Coelurosaurs evolved approximately 65 million years after this segment's setting. In fact, theropods had only evolved about 3 million years before this segment setting, let alone a very derived group within theropoda such as Coelurosauria. There is actually a Triassic theropod known from Switzerland, Notothesceryraptor, which was a basal neotheropod related to Dilophosaurus from the late Triassic, approximately 209 million years ago, meaning it lived in the right place, but approximately 21 million years too late to appear. Titanosaurus returns from new blood. Titanosaurus was a very basal pterosaur from the late Triassic, 218 to 215 million years ago, of Italy, meaning it lived in the wrong place and time to appear, not evolving for another 12 million years after the episode setting. Titanosaurus is implied to be migratory in new blood, so this could explain the spatial disparity. Its head is still proportionally too small. There are in fact two pterosaurs known from the Triassic of Switzerland, Caviramus and Rheticodactylus. Both of these species evolved too late to appear in the segment, and Rheticodactylus may be a synonym of Caviramus. In fact, Pterosauria isn't believed to have evolved until 2 million years after this segment setting. Nothosaurus was a nothosaurid sauropterygian from the mid to late Triassic, 240 to 210 million years ago, of Eurasia and Israel, meaning it lived at the right place and time to appear. There does not appear to be any evidence for or against Nothosaurus having a weak opening muscle for its jaw. Tanystropheus was a tritosaur related to the ancestors of pterosaurs. Wait, no, that's not right. Tanystropheus was a tanystrophiid basal archosauromorph from the early Triassic, approximately 248 to 234 million years ago, of Eurasia and North America, meaning it lived in the right place to appear, but went extinct approximately 4 million years before the episode's setting. Tanystropheus is now thought to have been bipedal based on the research of David Peters. Wait a minute, that's not right. Tanystropheus is shown being able to detach its tail. This is clear evidence of its Lepidosaurian affinities. That doesn't make any sense. How did this get in my script? In reality, Tanystropheus is, and always has been, believed to be quadrupedal, and not able to detach its tail. The lifestyle it is shown leading is now believed to be inaccurate. It is currently thought to have lived on shorelines and reached its neck into water to catch fish. A fish appears. It looks to be betrayed by a yellow-tailed snapper, Oxyurus chrysaurus, which is known from the Caribbean. There are almost 44 species of ray-finned fish from the Bassano Formation, so it could represent any of these. Symbospondylus was a basal ichthyosaur from the early Triassic, approximately 251 to 242 million years ago, of North America and Europe, meaning it lived in the right place to appear but went extinct approximately 12 million years before the segment setting. This means only one creature in this segment, Nothosaurus, lived at the right time to appear. Symbospondylus' teeth appear to be more designed for eating fish and cephalopods rather than marine reptiles and Nigel. This segment is set 360 million years ago in Ohio. I once again cannot find the filming location for the segment, but it may also have been in Aotearoa or the Bahamas. Dunkleosteus was a brachydorasian placoderm from the late Devonian, 382 to 358 million years ago, of North America, Poland, Belgium and Morocco, meaning it lived at the right place and time to appear. A 2023 study found Dunkleosteus to be much smaller and have a very different body shape to that shown in the episode. Dunkleosteus likely had lips to cover its bone shears, and its head armor was most likely covered with skin. Nigel catches a small placoderm. This is externally confirmed to be Bothria-lepus. Bothria-lepus was an anti-arc placoderm from the late Devonian, approximately 387 to 360 million years ago, of basically everywhere, meaning it lived in the right place and time to appear. Stethocactus was a Samouriiform basal cordichthian, or cartilaginous fish, from the late Devonian to late Carboniferous, 382 to 298 million years ago, of Eurasia, North America and Australia, meaning it lived in the right place and time to appear. It reuses a modified version of the Hybodus model. Stethocactus is referred to as a shark, when it in fact wasn't. Sharks, or Selachii, didn't evolve until the early Jurassic. It should have small spines on its head and ironing board structure. It should probably be smaller, as only the Carboniferous species reached the size shown in the episode. For the first time in the history of the Walking With series, the episode ends on a cliffhanger. Thank you for watching this video. This has been pretty big, like this one's massive compared to the Walking With Cavemen breakdowns. Thank you for getting me to 560 subscribers, or whatever the number is. I've lost count at this point. And join me next time when I'll break down episode 2 of Sea Monsters, Into the Jaws of Death. Have a nice day. Goodbye.